Hey, what's up, my friends? Welcome back to Always the Journey TV. I am your host, Jason Woodland. This is episode number 37. We are just rocking right along with this, and we're having a ball talking to all these amazing people out here in the community. The objective here is to spotlight people in the community who are kicking butt and taking names, doing all kinds of cool things within their jobs, their businesses, their artwork, their side hustles, and everything in between. I love talking to people with passion about what they're doing. Today's small business shout out is Hong Kong Tea House, located at 565 West, 200 South in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's right in the downtown area. Be sure to go down there and get some takeout. I think they might even be doing a dine-in as well. Be sure to wear your masks. But I think they've got a little bit of parking right in the front, but definitely go and check them out. It's a great spot. Today, I'm extremely excited about introducing to you a very dear friend, Angela H. Brown. She is definitely a mover and shaker out here in Salt Lake City. She's an entrepreneur, publisher of SLUG Magazine, slugmag.com, and the executive director of Craft Lake City. Angela Brown has published SLUG, known as SaltLakeUnderGround magazine, for the past 20 years. During that time, Brown launched slugmag.com, a bi-weekly podcast, SLUG Soundwaves, and created dozens of successful SLUG Magazine community events. The magazine's combined digital and print circulation reaches over 65,000 readers each month. Brown has been the recipient of the Josephine Zimmerman Pioneer in Journalism Award from the Utah's chapter of the Society of Professional Journalists. Say that 5 times in a row really quickly. In 2009, Brown started Craft Lake City, a 501c3 nonprofit organization recognized for showcasing Utah's handmade community with the annual Craft Lake City Do-It-Yourself Festival. This 3-day DIY festival features over 250 local artisans, a STEM building, 50 local performers on 2 stages, and attracts more than 20,000 attendees each year. In her spare time, Brown loves to print silver gelatin images in her photographic darkroom, run outdoors, and volunteer for various local committees and advisory boards. In 2018, Brown was honored as a distinguished alum from the Salt Lake Community College. And in 2019, Brown was cited by Utah Business Magazine as one of 30 women to watch. So I'm extremely excited to introduce to you my very dear friend, Angela H. Brown. What's happening?
Hey.
It's good to see you.
Oh, so great to see you. And thanks so much for having me today.
Absolutely. It's an honor and a pleasure. And like I said before, I absolutely love your shirt and your vest. It is awesome.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So the reason why I wanted to have you on is I wanted to really get a better understanding of your history and what inspired you to become part of SLUG Magazine. You know, I've been reading SLUG Magazine literally since I was a little kid, when my mom was driving me to Raunch Records and Heavy Metal Shop and Gray Whale Records and all that kind of stuff. And I actually tried to find a copy of one that I had from like 1990 or 91 or something, just to lift it up, but I couldn't find it. It's stuck in a box somewhere. But I love all the work you do in the community. It's absolutely amazing to see all the cool stuff you do. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were doing before SLUG Magazine?
Yeah, it's funny because SLUG has kind of been with me since I was a teenager, like you were mentioning. I mean, I remember being, I think, probably 12 years old when my cousin that was living with our family at the time brought home a SLUG magazine. And he was a college student at Westminster and was kind of having some problems with his family. So he moved in with our family and was really into music. And at that time, I was living up in Emigration Canyon. My family, that's where we grew up. That's where my childhood home was. And it was just a beautiful place to grow up in the canyon. Mm-hmm. It was very isolated. And so, in order to get someplace, it was like a 2 or 3 mile walk to the closest bus station, or I had to get a ride from someone down the canyon. And so really, I spent a lot of time kind of like isolated up in my house. And so at that time, I really was looking for kind of gateways to the outside world, and to like learning about, what else is happening besides this kind of conservative world that I was brought up in, which was, don't get me wrong, it was a great family life, but at the same time, I really wanted more. And so when he brought home the SLUG magazine, I just gravitated to it and was like, wow, there's this whole other world of music, art, culture, and it's all happening just a few miles away from where I am. How can I get there? How can I get more? And so that kind of really sparked my love of music and my interest in alternative culture.
Oh, that is awesome. So what kind of music would you say that you grew up in predominantly?
Yeah, so at that time, SLUG was really covering a lot of local bands. And so I started kind of getting into the local band scene. But I also at the time was really drawn towards, some of the, I guess, kind of the easy gateway bands like The Cure and the Smiths, and, some of those kind of alternative sort of rock and gothy bands. And then, started getting into more of the punk and the hardcore as my tastes kind of changed, but also as I was able to find out more. I mean, back then, this is pre-internet, and you really had to work hard to study and to find connections to this information. You had to subscribe to mail order catalogs. You had to find zines and save up your lunch money and order subscriptions. And then you also had to find other individuals who knew this information or had tapes that you could borrow or that would make you a mixtape. And so it was really kind of about like searching and researching, and then seeking out other individuals that had more knowledge about music that they could share.
Oh, that is awesome. I remember those days like they were yesterday. They're just so nostalgic. Yeah, going down to, Ranch Records and just standing there and just looking at all the flyers. And then you'd buy the, the new 7-inch records that came out, and then you'd learn about other bands by looking in their special thanks list. And you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't heard of that band. Let's check them out. And oh my gosh, that is awesome.
Oh yeah, and I love what you're saying about the record stores. Like Brad, going down and talking to Brad. There was a really cool record store that kind of opened up a little bit later when I was in my high school years, called Modified Music, that was on the 9th and 9th corner, that specialized in imports. And you could go in there, and everything on their floor was all imported from England. Which at the time was pretty difficult to get to get access to that kind of music. And yet, I mean, I really became good buds with people working at record stores, because they also had kind of the keys to the knowledge that I wanted to know. They could easily say, oh, you like this band, try this band, but yeah, and it's so many fond memories of just spending hours at record stores.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I remember jumping into like Maximum Rock and Roll, and calling Victory Records and Revelation Records and placing an order. And oh my gosh, that's just absolutely amazing. And also, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
I was just going to say shout out to Brad over at Ranch. He's a very dear friend, and he's been a friend of the community for obviously decades. So yeah, shout out to them as well. What were you going to say?
And he's still there. You can still go and chat with them, and it's pretty fun to walk in there and see like the next generation of young kids hanging out with Brad. Drawing at the counter and listening to records. And
yes. I love it. Last time I was in there, I bought a Gorilla Biscuits pin and an agnostic front pin. And actually, I had those for a few years, and I actually just barely gave them to my niece, because now she's got a jacket that she's putting all of the pins on and all this kind of fun stuff. So it's fun to sort of transition that down too.
That's right. Pass down that knowledge and be the cool uncle.
Exactly. Oh, that's awesome. So, okay, cool. So, and then what was some of the work that you were doing pre-SLUG Magazine as well, if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, so I kind of took that love of music, and I followed a career with it. So, and that's actually how we got into SLUG. So I started doing music retail. So that record store I mentioned, Modified Music, as soon as I graduated college or high school, actually, I just was barely 18, because you had to be 18 to work at Modified. I was able to score a job there. So that was really fun. So I worked there for a couple years doing music retail, specializing in selling, essentially a lot of goth industrial was really my specialty there. And that's really worked with, in fact, actually, you're talking about Revelation Records. I remember the first time that my boss handed me their wholesale catalog. And I was responsible for going through and ordering in all the Revelation Records stuff, which was pretty cool. So I got to kind of dabble in, kind of like some punk and some post-hardcore and stuff like that, which was really fun for Modified. And that was such a great experience. And simultaneously, I had this second love. So music was definitely one of my first loves, but my second love was photography. And so I also, was working on the side, doing a lot of photojournalism, shooting for the weeklies. I actually got some gigs shooting for the dailies, and even shooting for a lot of the monthlies in town, including SLUG Magazine. And so I was doing music retail. At that time, when I started shooting for SLUG, I was in college, and so I was going to school. And then I transitioned on to a new record store called Salt City CDs. And so Modified for a long time was on the 9th and 9th corridor. It's actually where Centered City Yoga is right now. That used to be a record store, and right next door to it was this really cool clothing store called Galaxina. They were kind of like a cooler version of a Hot Topic before Hot Topic existed. They sold like a lot of import clothing from England, a lot of vinyl, a lot of just really interesting threads that you couldn't find anywhere else from indie designers, including local designers too. They had a pretty robust local consignment area where designers could kind of put their stuff on consignment. You could go in and purchase it. But so after both of those businesses moved and off the 9th and 9th block, and there was another CD store that kind of popped up in a record store called Salt City CDs. And I became good friends with the team over there. And so I transitioned over onto their team. So I was working at Salt City CDs. And at the time, Gianni, who was the second owner of SLUG. SLUG was actually started by a local musician named J.R. Rupel back in 1989. And he ran it for about, a little over 5 years. And then he was finished with it at that point. He actually wanted to move out of state to join a band called the Jack Mormons and play bass for them. And so he was actually just going to stop publishing SLUG. And Gianni, who was one of his advertisers, he ran a shop called Guitar Gallery that was down on 17th South and I think Main Street. And he kind of saw this as an opportunity and said, "Hey, let me purchase this from you." So he took over SLUG and ran it for around seven years. And at that time, he was also moonlighting at Salt City CDs. So he was really good friends with the owners, Rick and Jean. And when I say moonlighting, like he would come in and like work a shift once a month for trade for some. He was really into jazz records, and Salt City CDs had this huge like jazz department. And so he would just work, go in there and like do a couple shifts in exchange for like his tab for his jazz CDs. So he kind of learned a little bit about who I was from that, but he saw my work as a photographer and actually hired me to shoot a cover. And so that's how we got to know each other. And then from there, he learned that I actually had a talent for writing, that I knew copious amounts about music from my years of experience working in music retail. And also at the time I was working for a record label too out of San Francisco called Universal Music and Video Distribution. And so they were actually a distribution company for around 30 to 40 different labels. And so I would do all of the marketing and promotion for them in the Salt Lake City area. So I was going to college, doing photojournalism at the same time, working for the record label, and then working for Salt City CDs. And then Gianni approached me about becoming his managing editor. So at the time, he just recently lost a staff member and needed someone to help in that ability. So I kind of asked around, and at the time, my love for SLUG had kind of diminished a little bit. So, so I mentioned that there was kind of two different owners of the magazine. And the first owner was really all about local music, and was really covering what was happening. They used to run a tagline, we cover like what's really going on in town. And I just love that. And then when Gianni came along, because each editor, each publisher, including myself being the third, we've all sort of had our own vision of the magazine and taken it in a different direction. Mm-hmm. And Gianni did a lot for SLUG in the sense that he took it from a local focus into more of a national focus. SLUG is an acronym. It stands for SaltLakeUnderground. And he kind of dropped that and really just, sort of worked on the SLUG brand name. And at one point, he even wanted to take the magazine national. This is back in the mid 90s. And so he really started doing a lot of like just national band focus, which was pretty cool. It gave us the ability to score some interviews with some really great people. Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth, Henry Rollins was graced the cover a number of times. Tom Waits we even interviewed at one point. So we were able to get some really nice notoriety there. But there was also kind of this other kind of underlying voice that was very Gianni, that at the time I didn't really connect with. I think as a woman and as someone that was really I guess kind of a feminist, more into female empowerment. And so I remember kind of complaining actually to someone at the record store once, and about like, hey, SLUG's voice it's a little kind of like male centric. I'd like to kind of see some things changed about it. And they said, well, why don't you do that? Like, why don't you the owner, why don't you do that? So when I was offered the opportunity to work for Gianni, I thought, hey, I kind of recalled that conversation, and I was like, hey, this is my opportunity to kind of make some of that change. Let's see what we can't do together. So I accepted the position with Gianni and worked for him for 2 years, and learned a lot, had a great time, and was able to work with Gianni to kind of slowly start making some changes that I thought would be better for the magazine.
Wow, that is awesome. I really appreciate hearing that history, because sometimes it's easy to forget, like, what took place and when and all that kind of stuff. And what you've done with the magazine has been magnificent. And all of the derivative things that you've done from the magazine has been also magnificent. And we're going to definitely cover some of that. So let's see here. Let's talk a little bit more specifically about SLUG Magazine. So obviously, you and I have been around it for, probably 30 years now. And it's almost in its entirety, reading it or being part of it or looking for bands and all that kind of stuff. But tell us more, for the person who's watching this, who's not familiar with SLUG Mag, what exactly is SLUG Magazine today?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for asking. So, SLUG Magazine, like you were saying, we've been around for over 30 years. I think we're coming up on 33 in February. And we are just such a unique publication because of our longevity. I mean, we've been around for 30 years. And we find that a lot of individuals kind of start reading it at a young age, like you and I did, and then continue to read it as they grow older. And then, of course, start sharing it with their younger generation. And so we actually hear a lot of times some of our new interns will come in at around college age, and they first learned about SLUG from their parents, which is kind of
Nice.
fun to hear about that. But we're kind of unique in that sense, where we have that Gen Z kind of demographic that's still really interested in being part of the magazine, contributing to the magazine. But then we have, the Gen Xers that are still readers. And so we've got kind of that really interesting age demo where we've got about 18 to 45 as sort of our sweet spot for readers. But SLUG is really unique in the sense that, as I mentioned, it's changed over the years. And what we're currently working on now, while SLUG has a history of being primarily a music-oriented magazine, and that's still our roots, we still do a lot of music coverage. Mm-hmm. We've really shifted to encompass what really redefine that term, SaltLakeUnderground. With technology and the way that our society has changed and the access to information, you don't have to search as hard to find the real quote unquote underground. So we take that as our job, to do that extra digging, to find the local artists, to find the entrepreneurs, the micro business owners, the local leaders, the nonprofit leaders, individuals that are doing work in our community that normally don't get covered in mainstream media. And so a lot of times we are the first time they've ever done an interview. We're the first time that really they've been acknowledged for their work. And then we see from there, other people kind of pick up our stories. And we love that. We love really being kind of the first person to really pull someone up and shine the light on them. And then from there, see them just soar out in the community.
Oh, that is awesome. That is really good. So I mean, you guys are covering, a lot of different facets within the magazine. And I liked how you gave us the demographic of, you said 18 to 45, right?
Yeah, 18 to 45 with, and that is, I would say the majority, about 80% of our demographic. If you want to break that down even further, around 21 to 35 is our highest readership in that age demographic.
Okay. All right. Cool. And then let's talk now also about Craft Lake City. Because we've got SLUG Magazine, we've got slugmag.com, which is going to be the digital version of SLUG Magazine. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So when I first took over SLUG Magazine, um, there was basically just slugmag.com with links and it was links to record labels, to national record labels, and that was it. And so that's one of the things that I started working on, was getting all of our archives up online, which is pretty neat. So now you can read every single issue of SLUG Magazine as a PDF on our website. And actually a long-term project that we've been working on for the past 5 years that we're slowly making headway on each week is getting those in a searchable, indexable format so that you can actually read them outside of their PDF form with imagery. And so that's been a lot of fun. And then, of course, keeping up with technology now. We are a monthly in print, but we are really a daily online. So around 5 to 6 times a week, we'll be publishing new content up on the website that you can only read only on the website. And a lot of that content is really, we do primarily all local in the print. But on the website is where we'll do more national coverage. That's where you can find more of our national interviews with, artists from all over the world, as well as we do a lot of film coverage and television coverage, stuff like that, comic book coverage, all sorts of different coverage. But that's kind of more geared to our national audience. We really see slugmag.com is where the world will be reading SLUG. Yeah. And then, of course, our locals love to pick up that hard copy. Of course, we see from our stats that we do have local readership that's still reading slugmag.com, but primarily our locals love to go into those indie retail shops and pick up a hard copy and look through the layouts.
Yes, absolutely. That's definitely me for sure. Okay, so Craft Lake City. What inspired you to start Craft Lake City? And for the viewer of this video, what is Craft Lake City?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So Craft Lake City is our sister organization that I started almost 13 years ago. I can't believe it now. And I've been running SLUG now this is my I just barely passed my 20th mark. So for 20 years now, I've been running SLUG. And then 13 years ago was when I started Craft Lake City. And Craft Lake City, its first year, it was actually a SLUG Magazine event. Mm-hmm. And essentially what it was, or what it is it's an alternative, the first year was an alternative arts festival where it really, for locals. So essentially I started to kind of notice that the rise of the handmade movement nationally and internationally. And I thought, hey, with Utah's unique cultural background, we've been, dabbling in the handmade movement, and our DIY culture has been strong for years. Not only with the kind of predominant religion really being into crafts and handmade artwork, but also with our punk scene and our hardcore scene that has been very DIY all the way. So the idea with Craft Lake is to kind of infuse those two worlds, the local artisans that make handmade crafts with essentially the DIY ethos. And so we started an alternative arts festival, and we called it Craft Lake City. And we paired local bands together, had them play on a stage. And then, of course, we had local artisans selling their wares. And one of the reasons why I thought it was so important to highlight local artisans is also at that time, I had a lot of friends that felt like they couldn't make it as an artist here locally. And they needed to move out of state. They needed to move to an LA or a New York City to get recognized. And, as technology is changing, I also thought, this idea of the gallery is also kind of antiquated and really becoming a little dated in the sense of where you have to be shown in an art gallery, and that's the only way where you can sell your work and make money. And it also isn't very inclusive as well. Not everyone is able to exhibit their work in a gallery or purchase an item that goes into a gallery because of commissions and all of that. And so it's also about kind of breaking down those barriers and getting work out there to the community for an affordable price and purchasing directly from the artisan and keeping those dollars in our local economy. So there were just kind of a lot of benefits to putting that together. And so that was what we ran as a SLUG event the first year. And after that first year, I could just see that it had the ability to become its own organization. There was more work we could do. We could really expand that concept and do a lot of different programming in different ways. So I separated that and turned it into its own 501c3.
Nice. Yeah. So shout out there. If someone wants to donate, they may be able to get a tax deduction since you are a 501(c)(3. But as a disclaimer, make sure you check with your accountant first.
Always consult your tax professional.
Exactly. Okay, that's awesome. And then of course this year you've sort of turned it into a hybrid model since we haven't really been able to do a lot of the things. So can you tell us a little bit about the digital version of Craft Lake City and how people can participate in that?
Yes. So I mentioned our first year with it being a SLUG event. It was just a one-day event. Well, over the years, now we're in our 13th year. We've expanded to a 3-day event, 20,000 people, 250 local artisans, like you mentioned in the intro, over 50 local bands, and STEM building. So it's a really big event where we create this mini city for a weekend, and it's almost like kind of like the Utah Arts Festival, but every single person is from within the state of Utah.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, yes, we could not host that event. It's normally the second weekend of every August. We just recently moved back in 2019 to the Utah State Fair Park so we could really expand our footprint. And yeah, with 2020, we had to take it all online. So we really saw this as an opportunity to highlight the technology element of our mission statement. Craft Lake City's mission is to elevate Utah's creative culture through science, technology, and art. And so we really thought, hey, let's zero in on this technology component. And so we took our festival into a virtual reality format. We worked with a virtual technology specialist whom I found through a couple different friends that helped us build this VR platform in just actually in 6 weeks. So it was pretty heavy lift. And then we debuted it for the public, and it was so fun. People could use their Oculus headset and have the full VR experience, or for individuals that had never done VR, you could just do it on your laptop or on your phone. And we built this, essentially, we kind of tried to recreate the entire festival in digital form. And we realized after the fact that the campus that we created digitally was actually 3 times the size of what it is in reality. So we actually created something bigger in digital form than what we do in real life, which was a lot of fun. And so people had 3 days essentially where we kept the platform open and they could roam through and meet the artisans, have interactive experiences. It was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is amazing work. I mean, great job there. And I'm assuming, though, when things start stabilizing, that Craft Lake is going to be in person again, too, right?
It's true. Although we had so much fun learning and innovating, and we even taught the artisans the program where they could actually make their own virtual gallery. And some of them did the most amazing work. So they had a great time too, innovating themselves. And people still did sell artwork through the platform, but nothing is like that in-person experience. And with the VR platform, people could become an avatar and you could go in and talk to each other. It was kind of like a game in some aspects. But again, people want that connection in person. They want to be able to have that conversation and learn about the items that they are purchasing, have a little story to take home with them. And when you're able to just kind of that experience of just wandering someplace and happening upon new things and a new artist, a new local band that you normally would have never listened to, it's hard to recreate that in digital form. And I think we did a good job of doing something different. Yeah. But yes, we will when the timing is right. We look forward to getting back to an in-person festival.
Nice. Okay, cool. So for those of you who are watching this interview and you have not been to Craft Lake City, 100% check it out. Get online, learn about it, and show up. When show up either digitally or in person. When depending on what's going on there. So it's an amazing event. My wife and I, we go all the time. Every year, let's say, try to get there every year, and it's just amazing. So let's now talk about the geographic locations that SLUG Magazine covers. And the reason why I want to talk about this is if someone's watching this interview, I want them to get an understanding if they want to advertise there, if it's going to make sense for their kind of business. So let's talk about geographic locations and the kind of businesses that would typically advertise in SLUG Mag.
Yeah, thanks for asking, Jason. So we have several different advertising platforms available for those that are local businesses. 98% of our advertisers in the print hard copy form are local businesses. And it is because of our wide reach. We actually distribute 20,000 issues every month all across the state. That's from all up in Logan, all the way down to Cedar City and St. George, up through Park City and Heber, and over on the west side through Tooele. So and even some places in Wendover. So we've got pretty good coverage there as far as getting the magazine out. And so we see a lot of local businesses, primarily from the Wasatch Front area, where that is most of our coverage. As far as distribution wise, where we have the heaviest numbers. And so we also find that it's such an affordable way for local businesses to advertising. If any of you have ever looked into advertising, you know it's really expensive. And so that's one of the reasons why SLUG exists, is not only through our editorial coverage to amplify underrepresented populations, but also through offering an affordable way for local businesses to get the word out about their services. So through print is very, very affordable, but also digital. So we do through social media. That's also a really, really affordable way to get in for, under $100. If you just got, really low budget, we can get social media campaigns together. Also, if you have time sensitive stuff with, monthly being, you've got to, kind of pre-plan for your campaign that way. So if you have something coming up in a couple of days or next week, we can certainly get the word out really quickly for an affordable rate through social media. And then of course, through our website, we have web banner ads there as well that are also really affordable. It's a little bit more of a national demographic or e-commerce demographic. Really, if you've got a website where you want to do a lot of sales, we recommend that for slugmag.com, because people can easily click through and order right away from you there. And then we actually started a new opportunity this past year called native content. And this is something that's been happening, of course, in media for a long time. And so this is actually where we have two different versions of this. So this is where, although most of our content in print is organic, if you really want to guarantee that we write a piece about you, you can actually pay what's called native content. It's labeled native, so the readers know that it was a paid opportunity, but you can pay us, and this is where you can actually have a little bit of editorial oversight over your piece, where you can read it in advance, maybe provide some suggestions on what you'd want us to write about and things like that. Of course, it has to be within our journalistic kind of ethos and something that we would feel comfortable writing about normally. But then the second part of native content that we're actually working on, and this has been really successful over the past year, is we're writing content for other websites. So we've been able to strike some pretty cool deals. One of them with Visit Salt Lake, kind of a tourism arm of the state. Right. And this is where we can write about all of the cool things that are happening in Salt Lake. This is kind of our job to seek out the interesting things happening in our city. And so where we can write about that coverage for them and publish it on their site. And then, that's kind of another income stream for us. So we're currently have a few other clients and contracts underway where we're coming up with that content curation, and our team is actually, and our photographers and writers are writing for their site. So that's pretty exciting.
Oh, that is extremely exciting. Okay, so as far as let's say a client for SLUG Mag, to sort of define this a little bit more, so people can advertise in SLUG Magazine. They can advertise on slugmag.com. They can do that that paid editorial section. Can they also become sponsors of Craft Lake City?
Yes, they can certainly become sponsors of Craft Lake City. So we do a number of different programs throughout the year with Craft Lake City. We have, of course, the annual DIY Festival, which, of course, is our largest program that we actually work on planning all year round. And we do a lot of sponsorships from that. We have a myriad of different opportunities, and to really low sponsorships, we're just getting logo placement or awareness, to actually sponsoring certain areas, to on-site brand activation. There's a lot of different opportunities there. And then also we work with our workshop partnership program for sponsorships. So we have, in non-COVID times, we're actually out in the community every single month doing workshops with the Natural History Museum of Utah, doing them with, there's actually a local bar called Alibi that we have a partnership with, where we go in there and do a crafting night at the bar. We do West Elm City Creek. We'll go in there and do home decor workshops. So people can also talk with us about being a partner in that aspect, where we'll actually go into their business and bring individuals and host craft workshops in non-COVID times. We're currently kind of restructuring that for the next year and coming up with digital ways to do those same workshops with those partners and still get that promotion in and advertising in that way.
Nice. Okay, so there's a lot of different opportunities that a local business can work with and correspond with your organizations then.
Oh yeah, and that's one thing that I personally love doing. I love meeting other entrepreneurs, other local businesses, and brainstorming together, coming up with a specialized plan that works for them. Sometimes people kind of have a creative idea where, hey, I don't know if you can do this, but could we, let's talk about this. And I love coming up with unique campaigns. Or if someone, maybe they have a dollar amount, but they're unsure about, this is the first time they've ever allocated a budget to marketing, and they're unsure of where to start. It's really our goal with SLUG and Craft Lake City to support locals' creative economy and, really keep these dollars flowing within our state and supporting one another. We want local businesses to succeed. And so, we won't sell individuals packages that we don't feel are going to be successful for them. We really kind of work with them to do something that they feel comfortable about and that we also feel comfortable selling, that we feel ethically and morally is going to help their business. We don't want to see anyone go out of business. We don't want to see anyone overspend and get themselves in a situation they can't get out of.
I love that. And I appreciate that about you guys. That is so cool. So just to sort of recap that part. So if someone comes in and they just don't really even know what to do or how to do it, or they might have an idea of their budget, but it's not really tight, you guys can, in essence, consult them on how a package would work, how to fit it best to their budget, and what kind of eyeballs are going to be able to see that the package they purchase. You got it. Exactly. In fact, we hear from individuals all the time that maybe they even haven't launched their business plan yet, but they just, they want to find out more information, and we're happy to provide that to them and answer as many questions as they have, so that when they are ready, we're there for them and can help really, bolster what they're doing. That is really cool. So in essence, I mean, you guys are, obviously you're a community partner to so many people out there, but to your small businesses coming in, you guys are in essence a partner to them. And helping them take, go from step one to step two in their overall advertising campaign and their budget and that kind of stuff. And to get, that's really cool. I like that. Thanks, Good Jason. Stuff. Yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely. Okay, so what is the best way for someone to get a hold of you guys if they want to learn more, either about, picking up magazines, like what kind of shops can they find those in, and then also if they want to advertise. How do they find you regarding, both organizations? What does that look like? Yeah, so we like to say that you can find SLUG at any place cool, which is really, most local businesses in town. And yeah, if you need to find out, where's the spot where I can pick up SLUG, you can email us at info@slugmag.com. Also, if you want to carry the magazine, if you're a local business owner, have a local coffee shop, a restaurant, any sort of business, and you want to have slugs there for your patrons, it doesn't cost anything for us to put you on our distribution route. We'll even bring you in a rack if that's something that you're interested in for no cost. And again, it's just go to slugmag.com. There's a myriad of different options of ways you can click on and contact individuals, or you can just email info@slugmag.com, and that actually goes right to my inbox. So. Perfect. Okay, so in all of my correspondence I've had with you guys throughout the years, you guys are definitely on top of it. So anybody that's going to be working with you can be rest assured that they're working with professionals. You're on top of your emails. You get back. You understand deadlines better than anybody. So you know how to jump on things and get things taken care of. It's true. We do. With deadlines, we live and breathe deadlines. That is awesome. Well, I feel like we've covered a lot of really amazing ground here. We got to learn about your history before you got involved with SLUG, what SLUG Mags looks like today, the different derivatives. Have I missed anything that we need to cover?
No, well, maybe one thing I'll put out there is just a
Please.
question we get all the time is how can I get my business featured in SLUG? And I mean, really, just if we have not featured you, please contact us. Let us know what you're doing. We can't always feature everybody all the time right away, but we do have lists where we do track individuals that we want to cover and when the time is right. So yeah, if you want to be in SLUG, if we haven't covered you, reach out. If you're a local musician and have um, album that you'd like to get released, we actually just started releasing, or pardon me, we just started reviewing singles, which is kind of a new thing for us.
Cool.
In the past, we used to make artists have like an EP or an official release before we'd review it, but now we do singles. So if you're a local musician and would like to get some press, yeah, just contact us. We'd be happy to help.
Nice. And does that only go for musicians, or does if someone has, let's say, maybe a new shop they opened or something like that, can they get featured virtually in anything like that, just as long as it meets your guys' guidelines? Is that correct?
Oh yeah. We, in fact, our December issue was the theme of it was shop small. What was it? It was like big hearts. It was big hearts shop small was our tagline. And so we featured all local businesses, boutiques, shop owners, retail owners specifically for December, just in efforts to get people thinking about, again, supporting small business, shopping local. So we cover local businesses all the time of all different flavors. So yes, please contact us. Let us know what you're doing. We'd love to learn about you, add us to your distribution, or add you to our distribution list, and then put you on our list for coverage.
Nice. Okay, that is perfect. So as we move to a wrap up, I always like to ask, what is one of your favorite quotes or favorite songs, or both?
I love this question. And I'm going to actually go with a quote that the Canadian hardcore band DOA uses, and it's talk minus action equals zero. And my team hears me quote that a lot, but it's such a good saying. And, I really try and live my life by that, I'll say it again, talk minus action equals zero. We can have all these really great ideas. We can want to do things, but if we don't put the action behind that talk, then we're really just doing nothing. So I love to think about that quote. It's also, I think it's an album title by DOA. I think it's definitely in some of their songs. Check it out. It's something that is really important to me.
That is awesome. I absolutely love that. I've got an old flyer from DOA from many, many years ago somewhere in one of those boxes, right? Awesome. So do you have a favorite song by chance?
Actually, favorite songs kind of wax and wane all the time, but recently, so John Doe from X, he wrote a book called Under the Big Black Sun, and it's really the history of punk rock in LA. And I read that recently. If you haven't checked it out, read it. It's incredible. It's kind of a first person account of him really kind of starting the LA punk scene along with numerous other individuals and bands. And it also has other individuals in their own words talking about their role in the LA punk scene. And so I've been listening to a lot of X lately. It's made me kind of really, really break out the X records. So I'm going to say a specific song by X that I've really loved lately is Los Angeles, off of their title album, Los Angeles.
Yes. Awesome. That is so great. Gosh, this has been a real pleasure being able to spend time with you this morning and getting to learn a little bit more. I can't wait until we're back in normal times where we can go and enjoy a cup of tea again. Nice.
Yes.
So yes, thank you so much for being on the show today, Angela. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much, Jason. And thanks for doing this show and this podcast. It's so informative, and I've loved learning about other people in our community through it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. If you don't mind, I'm going to have you hang tight in the green room for just a few moments while I wrap up. Is that cool with you?
Sounds great.
All right. Thanks again. All right, so there you have it, my friends. Angela Brown with SLUG Magazine. She's absolutely amazing. She is one of the biggest community pillars out there. Definitely follow her on social media, and definitely follow SLUG Magazine, Craft Lake City, and all the amazing things they do. If you've never read SLUG Magazine, which I'd be surprised if you haven't, but definitely go down to one of those cool places and pick one up. And if you're looking for a place to advertise your business, this place is a very good spot to check out. Like we mentioned in the show, you can go to slugmag.com and check out all their different options. But thank you very much for joining us. I sincerely appreciate you spending your time watching these interviews. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and throw us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content. And if you have any questions, feel free to throw those in the comments. I'll answer to the best of my ability. If I don't have the answer, I know Angela will. So thank you very much, and I wish you a wonderful and safe new year that's coming up in 2 days. Anyway, take care, my friends.